Welcome to a new episode of AI in Lending podcast. We are in season 2 of the podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Michael Hammond. I'm going to be sharing AI news with you today. And then we'll be going to our other co-host, Josh Friend, who will share an executive interview, sharing some incredible insights on AI and what's taking place in today's marketplace. So let's start with the news. ChatGPT just got a personal assistant yesterday. OpenAI quietly released its first agent adjacent feature called Tasks. Tasks is basically a to-do list that can schedule future actions. Think like weekly news briefings, daily workouts. Maybe it's a reminder to call your spouse or call your mom, whatever it may be. And OpenAI is not the only one making AI more, well, assistant-y. Last year, Google launched AgentSpace, a platform that lets companies build their own AI agents. Unlike basic chatbots, these agents can search across your company's entire data ecosystem. Email, documents, Jira, you name it, plus the internet in real time. They're rolling out specific versions for retail, helping store managers, inventory, and customer insights. So there's a lot of things taking place with those different tasks elements. President Biden signed a new executive order allowing AI companies to build data centers on DoD and energy sites to strengthen domestic AI infrastructure development. Amazon is reportedly working to transform its Alexa assistant into an AI-powered agent, but it has faced issues like hallucinations and slow response speeds. The Mayo Clinic partnered with Microsoft and Cerebras to develop AI foundational models for medical imaging and genomic data analysis, hoping to revolutionize personalized medicine with faster diagnostics and precise treatment predictions. Microsoft also announced a multi-year partnership with education giant Pearson to transform AI and workforce development with plans to deliver AI-powered skilled solutions and certifications globally. And lastly, Adobe's new bulk image tool can edit thousands of images in seconds. It was an update to its Firefly Gen AI suite and its Bulk Create, a tool to enhance image editing efficiency by automating tasks like background removal and resizing for thousands of images. Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Hey, Michael, thanks for that introduction. I appreciate it for the news. Here we are at the AI in London podcast, and we have back one of our special guests, a good friend of mine, Neil Sahota. Neil, thanks for having you.
Hey, always a pleasure, Josh.
Yeah. And you're in New York right now, right?
I am. So I escaped the wildfires for the time being.
Yeah, I know that has been something that's been impacting us here in Southern California for sure. It's very, very interesting. I thought I'd just kind of hop on, obviously for those that, have listened to our podcast before, haven't listened to our podcast before, Neil is one of those people you can call in a guru, an AI thought leader. You have a book out. You advise the United Nations on artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. You speak at the United Nations quite often and different summits and so forth. I'd love to just the little background for those that don't know you. Just what do you do there, and like I'm actually curious, like what's the United Nations looking at AI for? Like what's their view of the AI, and what does that look like?
Well, they look at a lot of different things around the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The key thing I think is that UN actually looks at AI as a very powerful enabler. In fact, even to the degree it's a partner in actually trying to accomplish some of these, you know, uh, unsolvable feats like trying to remedy climate change. I think that's surprising when I talk to a lot of people about that because 10 years ago when I started working with them, they had very much the perspective that this is something we got to be worried about. We got to regulate, we conquer the world. It's going to take people's jobs. But today, we've impacted 1.4 billion people with our projects to date.
Oh wow!
They actually see it. They actually see AI as a very powerful ally, and it's ironically much what I tell a lot of businesses, particularly lately in mortgage lending, that don't make the mistake of thinking of AI as software. That's usually why they fail to get value from it. You got to think of it as a high energy intern. It's going to be able to do a lot of things for you, but you got to teach it. It wants to learn, it wants to work, but you got to teach it what to do.
I like that. I mean, yeah, it's you have to teach it. Yeah, and I think that's real quick. When people talk about AI, and I was talking to someone recently, and they're like, "Well, I'm a little older. Am I going to be able to use this?" Talking about uncle, and he's not very technically savvy or driven, and he's like, "I don't know." I'm like, actually, truth is, the beauty of AI, it's not that it makes technology more complicated; it's that it makes technology simpler. Because part of the core of AI is its ability to interact as a human, whereas software doesn't know how to do that. But if AI knows how to do that, then you're then able to start conversing with it and understand why it's doing what it's doing, and people could have a little more insight and training of it, right?
100%. And AI is ironically the one tool you can ask how to use it better, and it'll tell you.
That's right. I, you can ask, you can say, I'm wanting to do something. Tell me what I should be asking you to do first, and it'll tell you. You should tell me. Yeah, that's a great thing about AI, is really understanding how to yield. But real quick, I know I see on your screen there, you have AI for good, and I know you talked about, you mentioned it's the 17. What is it? What's the term that the UN?
SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah. So that just real briefly, because I mean, I've heard about this, but some of our listeners have never heard about this. Just kind of, what is that? There's 17 different goals: climate change, world hunger. Like, what are the different kinds of goals, or just briefly, what is that?
They're the 17 goals that member nations have agreed to that will help create a better place for people and planet. So zero hunger, access to justice. Actually, one of them is financial inclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's really the focus.
Well,
Something that we all will benefit from if we can make them happen.
yeah, and I think what you just said there was there's been this talk for years about AI, and is the Terminator coming for us, and how should we regulate this? And maybe even 6 months ago or a year ago, I've even had people say, "Oh, that's not really real yet. I mean, what's AI really all about?" And obviously, it's definitely here. It's now. It's real. I was watching the thing with Bill Gates. He did on Netflix. He has a show called What's Next, and he said it like this. He was talking to Sam Altman, which is the guy at OpenAI, a while ago, before, so maybe 3 years ago, I think is what it was. And he's like, "Hey, this is cool, Sam. So I think the stuff is neat, but I don't think it's really like that needle mover yet. Listen, you tell me when this thing can pass the California AP biology exam and get me a 4, then I'll listen to you." He said Sam came back 6 months later, he got a 5. He went, "Okay, this just passed the AP biology exam. We got a 5. That's something different." Okay, then he's like, "This is now a whole new era that just happened in the last several years of this capability." And what's great is this capability is accessible by everyone, right?
Well, that's one of the great powers of the tool. It helped democratize a lot of these things. And in the lending industry, I think there's some people are surprised by what's going on in that now you have some of these people that do appraising services, they can actually do it in real time and leverage AI tools. I mean, some images, drones, pull information from public records, other sources, MLS listings, that they can constantly reevaluate the value of a property literally on an hourly basis.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So, I mean, that's, I think, something I want to talk about you. I know you have the CMBA in February. We're doing a presentation there. I know you have one at Colorado MBA, and I think in March, and you've done some other in the past. Just tell me a little about what you're doing, some of the upcoming speeches or talks you're doing, and just kind of, what you're talking about in there. I know you have some financial use cases or so forth, but what is it that you're doing there?
And a lot of people they're at the point they know they need to do something, and of course they're worried about liability. But a lot of these companies I'm talking with now at these conferences, they want me to focus on what's AI actually being done today. What are the top use cases for the mortgage industry? Because a lot of companies, they're looking well, how is it my competitors actually able to do some of these things? And what about the liability? Why aren't they concerned about that? Or do they solve that? Or is it overblown? And then I've heard like I tried the same thing my competitor's doing, and we failed spectacularly. How is it that they were able to do that and we couldn't?
Yeah.
So, and I tell people, like one of the things is you got to think of AI as a high energy intern, for example.
I love that. That's great.
But yeah, the other thing I'm telling them is like you can just try and play catch up, but a lot of people are starting to ask me, what's the big thing? What are the top like 5 AI use cases going to be in 2028? When I've actually put that out there and published it, and people are like, "Oh, that." People are like, at first I thought that's a little ambitious. And I read through everything and I realized that's probably going to happen before 2028.
That's what's crazy, right? The speed at what this stuff is coming up. I mean, I was working with our team. They were in this week, and our lead developer and a head of our AI, and we're talking about something, and we're looking at a project, and he's like, "Well, yeah, but I just don't think it's quite, the accuracy, it's not quite there right now." And I go, "Trust me." Yeah, okay, well, okay. Listen, by the time we build this in 6 months, it's gonna be there. Like, I don't even like, I'm not, you may be concerned because you're like, well, right now it's only 90% where I want it to be. That's fine. It's gonna be 100% within 6 months. I mean, I was just looking at that. I'm sure people have seen that video. They show Will Smith a year ago when AI made a fake picture of Will Smith eating spaghetti. You seen that one? It's just
Yeah.
his head's moving all around. And now he's just like eating. It's like within a year, it went from this like looks as fake as fake can be to like, okay, this doesn't look fake anymore. Like, this is actually kind of scary. Like, this isn't fake at all. This looks like so real that, I mean, quite honestly, how are we going to know what the truth is anymore? Because all this stuff is out there looks so real. I don't know how someone said the internet's dead soon because no one will know what the truth is because this stuff all looks so real, right? So I think that's the speed. It's just the iteration of the stuff is so fast.
It is, and I don't want to freak people out thinking like it's all doom and gloom. Look, bad actors are going to do bad things, but good actors need a nudge. That's why I help create AI for Good with the United Nations. But at the end of the day, AI is not inherently evil or good. It's just, again, it's just a tool. It's going to do whatever you teach it to do. So you need good people use it for good reasons. That's one of the things about the lending industry where people are always worried about the liability, and it's like you're worried about AI making a mistake. Aren't you worried about your human workers also making the same mistake, right? It's like, but together, the goal is what we call hybrid intelligence. The goal is the human using the AI is more accurate than the human by themselves or the AI by itself. That's
Absolutely.
the goal.
Yeah, I think I mean, our use case with Athena for our servicers and lenders and financial institutions that use it for compliance. That it's a human next to the AI platform. The AI platform is finding things that the human's just never going to have the time or capability to go find that are uncompliant, and then just bring them to the human and says, "Hey, this is uncompliant. Now look at it." And then it's the human that has to then go decide what to do, make a change, talk to someone, right? But it's those two kind of like sitting side by side next to each other. You're right. That really kind of, drive that home. What out of curiosity, what are some of the use cases that you've seen in the financial space that you're talking about or you are interested in?
I mean, some of them are not surprising. A lot of people are using it to try and automate some of the like underwriting process, better customer service. But when you kind of think about 2028, you're seeing, I shouldn't say, you will see, and people have already started working on it, probably your competitors, if you're not doing it, is what we're calling hyper personalized productization. So, we always have kind of this set of different offerings, which one's the best fit for you. We can take, with the help of AI, a person's very specific situation and goals and needs, and actually create an individual offering just for that one person.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the ultimate level of customization. So now it's like you always heard like product market fit. Now it's really just I can fit my product to the individual.
I like that. It's like if you're a lender, it's making your loan officers like superhuman. I think I 25 years ago started off as a loan officer. That's how I got in the industry. I was a loan officer for maybe 4 years. When I stopped doing loans in 2000, I was closing on average 43 loans a month. And by today's standards, that's extremely high. That's a very large number to close on a monthly basis. And I think the reason why I was good at it was I was really good at talking to someone and figuring out all the pay this off, do that, pay a point, don't pay a point. Oh, you're going to be in the house for 10 years. Your kids are going to college in 9. So you're going to take a second mortgage out. You really want an arm because you're going to refinance again. And you said you want to put a pool in the backyard. You don't have the pool in the backyard yet. Okay. You're being able to figure all this stuff out and say, hey, or at least I could figure it out with them, talk to them, give them great service. So they felt like I knew I'm helping them along the way. That's what made me good at it. But I then became a lender myself, and not everyone can do that. That's not the skill set of every single person that's out there. Everyone doesn't have that skill set I can remember all the guidelines in my head, which is just, again, not a skill set that everyone has, but it's definitely a skill set that AI has. And, and if I'm a loan officer and I have AI, I don't need that skill set anymore because AI could take all those learnings that we have and say, now I have this picture of Neil. Neil's retiring in 4 years. He says he wants to move to Florida and, or whatever. Then we know we're not putting him in a 30-year fix and he's not paying a point to get that lower rate because it doesn't make any sense. Or Neil's saying, I'm dying in this house. I have a 1st-story bedroom and I have a walk-in shower. So when I'm 90, I can wheel myself in and out. Okay, Neil wants the lowest rate payment because he's going to be in there forever. Now, how do I structure that better for Neil? And I guess AI is really going to be able to kind of tell you that, right?
That's the goal, right? You want to know your client like a best friend. That's the bottom line. We don't, as loan officers, have the time to do that with everybody, but AI can facilitate that process for us. And here's the interesting part about this, Josh. Well, you can have the AI essentially be the concierge, share information, collect some of this thing, ask, get the stories about the people, what they might do. We've also found, though, is people are far more honest when talking with an AI system than they are with like a human loan officer or even a doctor or a lawyer or a police
Interesting,
officer.
right? Interesting, isn't it? It's like, is it the fear of judgment? I think it's what it is. There's no fear of judgment there, so people can be much more open, right?
No, that's exactly it. It's just that I don't feel like they're being judged. They don't feel like, oh, if I tell this person this, they're going to start thinking this way about me. And think about how much more powerful that is for our institutions if we actually have good data about the client,
Real data,
real data.
real data, not the oh, I'm really, that's real data that's actually meaningful. I think that is, kind of prescribing and helping customers and so forth. I mean, we obviously our Athena platform has some early parts of this now, which is just how to talk to your customer, communicate. I've used the example many times, but we have one of our lenders who is using our platform, and it actually listened to one of the calls. It listened to an elderly woman who was a widow who had her friend had recently passed away and had died, and the loan officer didn't say much about it. She mentioned my best friend Carla just passed away last week. Kind of in the first 2 or 3 minutes I listened to the call, 2 or 3 minutes of the call, because this was such a unique AI feedback. And then like 10 minutes later into the call, she's like, oh, I can't send the paperwork out on Monday because I have the funeral to go to. The loan officer just is like, oh, sorry to hear about that. Okay, what's your social security? Like just kind of like nothing. Didn't like meet that customer. Where the AI came back and said, hey, coaching tip. Empathize more with the personal situation of your client. Recent loss of Carla. Hey, listen, this person wants to talk about, they just mentioned twice that their best friend died and that they're a widow. They didn't just do that just for fun, just to say those words. They said it because they want to empathize. They want to connect with you. They want to tell you what's going on. Here's a great opportunity. And AI picked up on it. Like, hey, how do I make my communications and my process now fit this person's need because they're going through something? And AI can do that right every time. Whereas I may have a bad day, right? I may not, this person's I'm not a big football fan, but they're a Phillies fan. I hate the Phillies, so I don't like them or something. Like, as an example, I may dismiss something or politically, oh, they said they like this person, so I'm not going to listen to them anymore. AI doesn't really do that. AI is going to kind of just go, here's what's actually going on. Here's some real data, real world, and let me kind of give you some, information back, right?
100%, but you're bringing up a very interesting point, Josh, because a lot of people are concerned, particularly in the liability aspect, of the bias, the unconscious or implicit bias that's there, right? Yeah, we'll pick up on some of these things from us, and obviously amplify that. But at the same time, in your very example, because of AI, there's some things where we can actually reduce bias in the system.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that it is kind of like that. You know, I don't know, that referee that it doesn't have its own bias necessarily at play, right? Or emotional bias at play, and it's kind of, ready to give you the right answer.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, you don't know, even if you block out the person's name and some of the information, that the reviewer is looking at this going like, well, this person's a garbage person, right?
Yeah,
They might make some things like, yeah, it's not really going to be a great job. I don't know about the steady income. Well, it might be like it's actually a very steady income. Those guys get paid a lot of money because it's not the best of work, and those people tend to stay in that industry for 30 years. Might
consistency.
actually be great job security, and you're actually assuming the opposite.
That's right.
So that's the thing. At the end of the day, the AI is not going like that's a good job, bad job. It's like, do they have a job? What's the income? I'm doing a calculation, right?
What's the stability? So people have asked about, and I, the big threat in mortgage lending or lending financial institutions is going to be having AI doing any type of demographical redlining or suggestion. So it knows someone's race, ethnicity, something, age, and then it therefore makes some assumptions around them, and then doesn't, says this is a good bar or bad bar around some other things that we're not allowed to use, right? And I think that, lenders need to think about if they're using judging like that, there's a secondary thing. And this is what I think why right now people aren't really using this necessarily to make actual loan lending decisions. They really shouldn't be necessarily using AI to say, look at this customer, and then you tell me if I should give this person money. They really should be saying, here's my guidelines, and you tell me if there's fit in my guidelines. Because if I say, you tell me if this person I should give money to, it may not look at someone's race or religion, but what you don't realize, it may look at 100 different attributes that are tied to someone's race or religion, but they're not their race or religion, and take those 100 other attributes and then go ahead and find the same commonalities and then start denying people of the same class, nothing to do with you said that they're a male or a female or whatever, but it just made these assumptions because of these other attributes always go along with the female or a male or whatever it is, and they then go make those decisions. So I think that's where right now that's the challenge in this is how do you know how it's making those like ultimate and which was, again, I don't think why anyone's using this to make lending decisions. What we're using this for is, like you said, underwriting. I mean, how many people have to look at, I mean, you know a decent amount of the mortgage industry, but a pay stub. Someone turns in a pay stub or a bank statement. You know how many people look at that pay stub or bank statement? 3 to 10 people in that loan transaction. I mean, it's insane how many people will look at that pay stub. So the loan officer may initially look at it, then they may have a junior loan officer that looks at it, then it goes to process, and there's probably a junior processor that looks at it, and the processor probably looks at it, then it goes to an underwriter who double checks it. Then it goes maybe to the funder might double check it. Then they close a loan, they ship it, and the person who buys the loan post QC, they look at all the documentation again, make sure it's all. I mean, how many people need to look at one pay stub to know I make $15 an hour and I work 40 hours a week? Pretty good. They want faster horses. They don't want cars. They didn't know it. So like that's innovation, go from one step to the next step. So listen, I appreciate your time. We guess it's about 20 minutes, and Neil, it's always great having you on here. And if anyone needs to, wants to find you, they can find you on LinkedIn. I know for sure Neil has a lot of content that comes out. You can get his book, Own the AI Revolution. I actually have it, copy of it over here. I've read, great book, by the way. So that's a good book if you want to read up on AI stuff as well. Neil, always great to having you on. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure, Josh. Thanks, man.